And we'll start with some introductions. I'm Juice out of New York, hosting here in New York for a while during the pandemic. And I'm working on the Gateway program right now on my off time, going through all of it. And I'm about halfway through. Some interesting stuff. I've tried it out in the past but never finished it, but I'm determined to finish it this time. So that's where I'm at. It's a little funny though with doing all this, hosting this and doing the Gateway program. I haven't had much experiences, but that stuff happens. So I'm just enjoying the ride, doing what I can, seeing where it leads. Nikki, welcome back.
Thank
Would you
you.
like to do an introduction?
Yeah, I'm Nikki. I'm in Maine, and I had out of body experiences as a child, but never intentionally. Up until I guess it was like last month, and then since then they just keep happening. So I've had probably like five now. So yeah, very
Wow.
excited.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi, Susan.
Hi, I'm back. we our electrical grid may be back up, but we still have problems here once in a while. Oh, I'm an astral traveler. Have been since I was a child, probably about 4 years old that I can remember. Um, uh, I've written about astral projection for some research journals. I've taught classes about astral projection and other things. So it's one of my favorite subjects. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, Susan, you should be able to astral project pretty easy without all those electrical grids going on over there. Everything's turned off, so you get to travel for free, without any interruptions.
I know, it's crazy.
Well, I'm glad you're back, Susan. Hi, Greta. Would you like to do an introduction, maybe where you're from, and an out of body experience you'd like to share? If not, you can pass by just not unmuting yourself.
Hello, I'm from Rome. I never had out of body experience. I'm here just because I'm very curious in this subject.
Great. You said you're from where?
Rome,
From
Italy.
Rome. Wow.
Yes.
What time is it over there right now?
Now it's very late. It's 1 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you joining us out of body by any chance?
Sorry, I
Oh,
didn't understand.
oh, are you joining us from out of body, out of your body right now? Since it's
Yeah,
so late there.
yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. A lot of good information here.
Thank you.
Brianna, would you like to do an introduction?
Can anybody hear me? Okay. Ugh. I'm from the United States, and I just recently got into meditating and astral projection after I had an out-of-body experience on accident. And so I was just coming to see what you guys were talking about and if I could learn anything.
Cool.
Cool.
I hope you will. A lot of good information being tossed around here.
Yeah, it's a good group to be in. So I'm
Yeah,
happy to
a
be
lot of mixed, a lot of people that can get out, and a lot of people that can't, and all in between. So
here. Right.
a big
I've
mix.
gotten out twice, so I'm looking forward to trying to get both bodies working in synchronicity together.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
All right, Steph, how are you? Happy birthday.
Hey, thanks for remembering.
I sent you a text saying congratulations on another trip around the sun.
That's right. So let's see. I'm Stephanie. I started astral projection when I was 13, thanks to a TV show, and found verification and had regular in the house OBEs and then expanded into further ventures. And my life is different and great because of it. So highly recommended. Juice started the group in 2013 and I took it over a few years later and we are going strong.
Thanks, Steph. Hi, Julie.
Well, hello, Juice.
What's new?
Well, I see that beautiful Susan is here and sweet and masked Marty. And happy birthday to Steph. We should all sing to you. I do have something to share, and I don't want to keep everyone too long. So if you want to respond to this, what I'm going to share with you later, that's fine. So this morning, I had an experience, and I'm not sure if it's a lucid dream or an astral projection, because I thought I would always be able to tell the difference between the two, because I've had a handful of lucid dreams where I wake up in the dream and I change my dream on the spot. I shared this in another group too to try and get some help, but I haven't really gotten much response. And I've also had 2 fully wide awake OBEs in my bedroom, but they were nothing like lucid dreams. So the method that I've been using, this morning, for example, I had a ton of sleep, which is usually works for me after I have a ton of sleep, and then I just go back to sleep. And then I do this continual intention of astral project now, astral project now. And then I do this willful swaying of my non-physical body inside my physical body. And it's getting a lot easier these days. And it's pretty much from my shoulders, chest, up through my head. And I feel my non-physical body kind of swaying in my physical. And then I've been imagining my physical hands manipulating like a familiar object. And then several times now, what I've come to recognize as the final signal, which is sort of a sinking feeling of both like inward and outward within my physical body. It's like in and out, like a sinking, and then a rush of total relaxation. And I've come to know this as, okay, this is when I can project. And so after a few seconds of this sort of final signal, I recognize this sort of complete loosening or separation, if you will. And then that's when I begin to exit. And also during this time, I heard the familiar sound, I've heard this a few times, of a couple different radio stations on surround sound. And as usual, one was in a different language. And then I thought during this morning, okay, I want to remember what they're saying this time, the one in my language, and I knew the words, but I couldn't put it all together. I felt like I couldn't focus enough to bring it all together. And I'm assuming because I was trying to exit at the same time. So anyway, every time, but the 2 times that I've done this familiar exiting routine, it's usually I'm visually fuzzy and physically awkward. And then when I'm out, I try to leave my bedroom, but I end up back in bed. And then I always think, okay, was that real? Because I can't seem to figure it out because I second guess myself thinking, but I wasn't fully wide awake like I was those other 2 times. So was that real or not? So this was my experience. So instead of trying to walk out of my room, because I think maybe that's hindering me when I try to walk out of my room, I decided to just fly straight up. So I took off, but I had not gotten my vision yet with my eyes. So I only perceived the flight, and I was saying, okay, take me to an astral realm. And then it was lovely. It was beautiful feeling. And while flying, I heard various kinds of music. It seemed like sort of modern day music with lyrics, but I did not recognize the band. And I continued to hear this music. It was and again, like surround sound. I continued to hear it throughout my trip. So then I appeared in a very busy scene with, it felt like a beach location or a resort, and people were going here and there, like you might see at a really busy amusement park setting. There were lots of children. And I was thinking maybe kind of like a carnival or something, because I saw some large sort of glass structure that reminded me of maybe a giant popcorn maker or maybe even a dunking booth of some sort. but I couldn't see clearly enough. My vision was like maybe at 60%. The lighting was like when it's like a sunny day, but there's lots of white puffy clouds. So there's only pockets of bright areas. So I saw this boy kind of walking by, and I tried to make eye contact with him and talk to him, but he kind of just glanced at me and kept going. And then I said to myself, clarity and awareness, because it was just still not clear. And then I remembered, oh, I got to focus on something. And I looked at my hands, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I could see my hands. Okay. But my hands still didn't get clear, really clear. Things started to clear up a little bit, and then I found myself kind of getting giddy, like too excited. And then things started getting fuzzy again. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take off. So I said, take me to another realm. And I started to fly up, and all I could see as I was flying the second time was this like sparkling pinkish purple spiraling image in front of me. And I'm like, okay, I wonder where I'm going. And then it all started to fade. And then I came back to my body. So again, I sat there, in the bed, I'm thinking, okay, was that a lucid dream or an astral projection? Because I didn't feel wide awake. It never was total clarity. It kind of reminded me of what I've had sometimes in lucid dreams. But when I was making the exit, I was conscious. I knew what I was doing. But then when I disconnected and tried to have the experience, that's when it never quite felt 100% conscious and clear. So I guess my question is for all the long timers, and you don't have to answer it now because this was a long introduction. What do you think? Was that a lucid dream? Was it an astral projection? I don't know. It's frustrating because I feel like I'm exiting and doing it right, but then when I have the experience, I question it. The end. Nice to meet you all.
Well, first, that's great. That's great, Julie. This is what you're working towards. And either way, you had an experience, so that's great. Would anybody like to respond to Julie on her question?
Sure, I will. So that's an awesome intro. That's really, really cool. So I would, from my experience, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Sometimes you can actually have both. You can phase between a lucid dream into an astral projection, or kind of get distracted and your imagination picks up, and then you can phase into a dream. And then from what I've read, it's also possible to have an experience more like you actually have both. You can have a regular dream and a projection at the same time with two different awarenesses and two different levels. And then the brain just hates that and doesn't know what to make, cannot accept the idea of being in two places at the same time. And it can actually blur the two together as you wake up. And then you get both memories kind of mixed up. So just on what you shared, I'm not sure which one, but it sounds like an authentic out of astral projection. I've had times where I can like ascend up and change the scenery completely. It's different than a lucid dream where you can just change up the whole scenery just by demanding it, or just a whimsical thought changes everything. So that does sound more like an astral projection. The one thing that I found that helps you really know the difference is energy work. Whenever I haven't done much energy work, it'll feel kind of floaty, fuzzy, as if it's a dream either way. And that does make it real hard to tell. So I would say just keep trying and do more of the breath work, energy work that all the books recommend.
Cool. Thanks, Steph. Susan, you had your hand up, and then it went down and went back up again, so I'm going to call you next.
Thank you, Steph, for that.
No, I agree. I agree with what Steph said. You can have both. And you can have very fuzzy astral projections. You can have very, very lucid dreams, and they can kind of meld together. One of the simplest ways to get out of body is from a lucid dream, But what you said at the first, you spoke about that you felt like you were sinking or falling inside of yourself, or coming, how did you put it? Julie, how did you put that?
I kind of felt like, it's a common thing that I've had more than once when I get it right before a disconnect.
Yeah.
And it's a sinking feeling of both inward and outward, like
Yeah.
inward and outward at the same time in my physical body. And then there's this rush of like, like everything's so relaxed. And then I know it's
Yeah.
almost like a breath too. It's almost like it's so hard to explain, but I know, okay, it's going to happen. It's going to happen now. So
I know what we're talking about. Yeah, because like for 35 years that's one of the things that I talk about in class is something that it's a signal to me that it's time to go out, because it'll happen to me sometimes. So I'm just walking around, but I always called it coming loose inside myself, or
yeah.
falling inside myself. And it's a very distinct feeling, and you understand that for me it begins with this feeling of falling inside of myself, inside my own body, like I've just come loose and I'm falling inside my own body. And then my body gets very weak. If I'm standing, my body will get very weak, and I'll have to go lie down or I will fall down.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that to me, that indicates, I mean, I really think it was astral. You're probably astral, and you probably the dream state, the lucidity maybe blended in there at some point, because that's really common. But just the fact that you felt that falling, that sinking feeling inside yourself as this began, that's a takeoff. That's like being on the launch pad kind of thing for me. So I think that it was probably astral. And the more you do it, the more you do it, and keep notes, and you'll get to a point where you can discern whether you are lucid dreaming or whether you're astral.
Yeah, it's weird, this new sensation that I'm starting to recognize now, that's happened a handful of times. It's so clear now. It's like, and I'm conscious, I know what I'm doing, I'm trying to do it, and it happens, and then it's like, okay, and here I go. And then I start moving, I start feeling my astral limbs move out of my body. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this. I've done it a handful of times. I recognize what I'm doing. But then as soon as I'm doing that and then I'm standing up, it's like, okay, I don't feel totally conscious, like totally 100% clear, because my vision is not there, and it goes in and out, and my consciousness is like kind of fuzzy. It's like there, but it's not like like I said, I've had a couple OBEs where it's wide 100% awake. So it was very different from that. And I want to be 100% awake when I do them.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hi, Kat. Would you like to do an introduction?
Yes, hello.
Oh, Kathy, there you are.
Me. Were you talking to me?
Oh, yeah, I'm talking to you. I didn't know it was you until your picture came up.
Okay, hi. I'm in South Texas, and I'm friends with Susan, and most of what I know about astral projection, I've learned from her. I'm also friends with Nikki. I've had a few experiences myself. I've gotten out from a conscious state and from dreams, and I've got a master's in clinical psychology, and I've worked hypnotizing people. I'm interested in everything and anything mental, and I like to connect the dots. I like to see how everything connects with everything else. And, body, mind, spirit. And I'm currently very much involved with dream analysis in a Jungian format. And so my journeys are inward. And I don't direct anything in my dreams. I let them sort of direct me and come to me. But I'm very interested and curious about how the astral connects to everything else that I've been looking at. So I'm here.
Thanks, Kathy. And if you want to put a link to your meditation in the chat area, more welcome to.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Marty. Marty, take it away. What's new?
What's new? Okay, I have a question. I have had a couple of nice exits, and I feel a vibration just before I go, but that's all. And so I've been trying to figure out, why don't I get this vibration, everybody says, but can you tell me if you get like a buzz, like a hum or something, is that anything?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm laughing over
It
here.
is.
Yeah, totally.
I was gonna say, just for the new people that are on, you can go down to on the bottom to reactions and put your hand up if you have something you want to say. And since nobody's hands up right now, I get mine really strong in the head, Marty. Mine's really strong in the my brain area.
Interesting. Well, anybody have any suggestions, or I don't know if it matters, because it's, you know, I have managed to get out and just have the vibration like the last 3 seconds, you know, right before I went, but it seems like you want to be working toward getting this vibration. So,
Oh yeah.
but I do sometimes get like a tingle and a hum, but I don't get anything more shaky than that until, other than those times I went that the last 3 seconds, you know, felt definite vibration and then went flying out. But
Julie?
My experience, Marty, is that I don't usually feel vibrations before. I feel the swaying and the sloshing of my inner non-physical body. But I feel buzzing and tingling all the time when I'm really like working on it, when I go to bed at night and I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to work on it. And I end up working on it almost all night long, every 2 or 3 hours. Every 2 or 3 hours, I wake up buzzing. So I come out. So I think I'm coming out of probably lucid dreams and projections and who knows what else I'm doing, because I feel buzzing all the time now. But it's more like a tingling, and it's not in my head. It like juice. It actually feels more like in my entire, maybe my torso, I want to say. More like my torso is like, I feel like tingling and buzzing. And then that's when I feel like, oh, maybe I can go out now. And it never works. Like, I think I'm just coming back from trips. But having said that, I know I've read a lot of people that they do have the buzzing and or tingling before they go out. And I've also heard that it's not necessarily required. But I'd love to hear what Susan has to say.
Right. Definitely not required. Susan?
It's kind of the same for me. I felt the vibrations. There's times when I'll go out of body and I never feel the vibrations at all. I just lie down and boom, I'm out, just like that. But I'm aware, I know that they're there, and on some level they're there. I'm just not noticing them. But I can feel them full body. I can feel them in my head. It's a sure sign, you know, that something's going on. It's time to, you know, time to go, or you're just coming back or whatever. Sometimes when you come back in and you reintegrate your body, you know, you might feel a little residual buzzing, humming, you hear sounds or feel the vibrations or whatever. But as for them absolutely having to be there, you know, I think sometimes we just don't notice, because I've gone out very quick sometimes from my body. If I had a reason and I needed to get out quickly, I used to watch like an Astral ambulance chaser. And, you know, if I heard if there was an earthquake, or I'd heard there had been a major disaster somewhere after I started working with people who were dying or had been injured, I would watch the news. If there was a breaking news story and it was a major disaster, and I felt a pull to do so, I would go and, you know, it's like, okay, well, I have to go there. And I would go lie down and I would just, you know, pop out and I would go there. And sometimes, so it would be so quick that I didn't wait for the vibrations. It was just a knowing that, yeah, I have to be there at this place. I'm supposed to be there. And just go lay down, boom, I'm out. So the vibrations are a good signal, you know, that this, I always called it autopilot when you went on this vibrational state. It's like your body just humming on by itself, and you're coming loose inside of it. And it's this process. And so it goes along with the falling inside of yourself and the sinking feeling you get inside of yourself. It for me, it's all kind of mixed together. And so I can feel all of that at one time, or I might not feel any of it, but all of it's indications, you know, of astral traveling and your body getting ready to take off. You know, just go.
Thanks, Susan. Christy. Christy, would you like to do an introduction, maybe where you're from and an out-of-body experience to share?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Christy Himes, and I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm new to all of this astral projection, but I'm doing a lot of research to try to learn techniques to try to put them in practice. I've had a few instances where I hear some echo. Is that me? So I was just saying that I've been trying to put some techniques into practice. I got halfway through a recent workshop from William Bullman on astral projection, and I was reading some of his materials, and I'm doing some meditations that have brought me to a little bit of vibration and tingling on my hands. But I had two occurrences that I think is what triggered me to look more into this astral projection world, if you will, because I had one night that I felt like an electric rush coming through my feet and went through all the way to my head, and a lot of tingling, and then I heard like a loud buzz in my ear, and I was like, what in the world was that? It's the first time that I've ever experienced anything like that. And then you know, a few days later, I also felt like, you know, vibrations throughout all my body, and I was like, what is this? I thought maybe I was sick or something, and I was trying to look more information about it, and that's when I kind of stumbled across astral projection, and I've been trying to put it in practice now because my boyfriend passed away last summer, and I've been, you know, reading about us potentially meeting our loved ones on the other side through astral projection. So I've been trying to you know, find more methods or techniques to try to bring me to that stage. And I feel like when I've been close, when I'm doing meditation, when I've been close to getting to that vibrational state, I catch myself you know, over analyzing my sensations, and I feel like maybe that's prohibit or like, you know, preventing me from reaching to the next level. So I'm trying to think about, you know, or asking for any recommendations on how to kind of, I guess, quiet my mind and just let that go and just focus on the vibrations, or let just everything go, because I'm just like over analyzing every single vibration or physical sensation that I'm having. And for what I've read from Boldman's materials is, you know, stop thinking about your physical sensations and just surrender and trust and let it go, so that you can actually detach from your body, and then you know, go ahead and you know, separate or detach from your body. So I wonder if anybody has any recommendations to kind of help us quiet our mind while you're experiencing those vibrations.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of good information as we move through the night. And
Okay.
also, you know, if you we have more meetups and stuff too, but you're doing the right thing by doing your homework and going through the different stages. And I'm sure you're going to find some good information tonight with all the different
Okay.
experiencers here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna?
So this is a little bit of a story, but what got me into looking into astral projection, about a month before my mom died, something came to me while I was in my bathroom and I was wide awake. I was getting ready to give my kid a bath, and it was like whispering in my ear, like breathing in my ear. Well, then something touched me on my hip, and it automatically came to me that it was my grandma, because my grandma used to do this to me. She'd like goose me on my back and make me jump up. Well, that night I was like, I'm going to look into astral projection, because it kept coming up in my news feed. And so I found this like guided meditation to astral project, and I laid down and did it, and I mean, not even 10 or 15 minutes, it seemed like I was out of my body. Well, I walked over to my front door in my bedroom and I got freaked out. And all I did was just open my eyes back up and I was back in my bed. And so I've been looking into it ever since then. And it seems like, I don't know if it's because I'm focusing too much on it, if it's harder, but I've been trying to like meditate and read books and I do the same thing. I'll get to that point where I feel like I'm getting out of my body and I think I paid too much attention to what's going on and then it pushes me back. So I totally get what she's talking about with that because I feel like I'm paying too much attention to what's going on. But I was just wondering what my question was with the whole whatever happened to me that was like paranormal. Do people honestly believe that it's all in your head? Because for me, I really don't. I can't 100% believe that everything is just in your head. I'm thinking of it more as like a soul travel thing rather than just what you're making up in your mind. I think everything you perceive while you're doing it yourself is something that resonates with you, but I just have a problem believing that it's just all made up in your mind like some big dream. So I was just wondering how other people felt with that. Like, do they really think it's just some big dreamland, or do people honestly think that whenever they do see loved ones, is it something that's real? That's my question.
Great question. Susan?
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say to both people. The fact about whether it's real or not, it's, you know, if you're out of body and what you're experiencing, you can take other people, you can help convince yourself of the reality of it if you can practice, if you can project with other people, with friends, and go have a shared experience and then compare notes later. You will understand that, I mean, because go ahead and write down what you experienced and then compare your notes later. And you'll find out that you they should remember the same thing. Some people are better at remembering the details, but generally they'll have a memory of some of the details of what you did, because to me it is very real. I mean, you know, if you go somewhere where like you leave this level, every level that you go, you can be solid. I mean, you can feel things because they're not vibrating like physical things here. So you become more like where you're going. You become the body that you're out in is suited to that. So you're out there and everything is, yeah, it's a reality. It's not in your mind. It's not in your mind. I spent a long time thinking about that when I was young, you know, because I knew it was not in my head. Everything that I saw, I mean, I could tell you things that people said to me that were very important that I needed to, you know, that you can get all kinds of information out there. You can visit people in physical, people who have passed over, people who on even planes beyond that, you know, there's just so many levels, but it is a reality. I mean, reality is reality, you know, as long as you're not dreaming it, you're out and it's real. It's a reality. I mean, reality doesn't end with our bodies here. I mean, actually it begins when we leave our bodies, because this is such a limited place. Physical reality is so restricted. It's so restricted and so frustrating. And the more you have out of body experiences, the more frustrated I think that, well, for me, the more frustrated I became with physical reality, because you're just free. You're just free astrally. You know, you're free to go and learn and do and see and experience. This reality was very limiting to me. It's probably what helped me a lot when I was really young, wanting to have an experience outside of this reality, and I was just geared for it. So yeah, the reality of it is, yeah, it's a real thing, and the more you do it, you'll understand. And then whoever was speaking before you had asked a question also about along these lines. What was it? I don't remember the name of the person down at the bottom.
I think it was Christy Himes.
Christy, oh, okay. She'd asked something along the lines also of how to let your thoughts go, or not let your thoughts, you know, run over. Yeah. And the way I've always done it, because I say I'm an overthinker. That's why I have terrible insomnia problem, and because of that, it's for that reason. But when I used to like heavily practice this until I got really proficient at it, I would choose a time when I was sure that I would not fall asleep. That was always after I had woke up in the morning, my kids were at school, everybody was where they were supposed to be, everything had to be just right. And I would lock my doors. I would go crawl in my bed. I would sometimes close the bedroom door, just everything. I would just surround my home with light, everything. I would just do everything to protect myself. I had to feel like everything was right in my little world, so that I had no distractions whatsoever. And then I would lie down in the bed. I would cover myself up comfortably so I wasn't too hot and not too cold. And I just felt like it was almost like a little isolation chamber. And once I knew that, I was sure that everything was okay, everybody was where they were supposed to be, I was like, I could go and be gone for 2.5, 3 hours at a time. It wasn't a problem at all. So the more you feel secure in your environment, and the more you have to practice to let things go. But my suggestion is try to take care of any little things, and then when you lie down to practice the astral projection, because like I said, my best time was after I was so saturated with sleep from the night before that I wasn't in danger or at risk of falling asleep while I was practicing it. Then you notice that you have these things that feel like you're almost sleepy. It's a vibrational kind of, but you're not going to fall asleep. You're going to go out of body because your body doesn't need this. You don't need the sleep, so you're active, and that was my way of doing it. But when you lie there, if you're lying there and you have these thoughts that pop in, if you can notice them, kind of like when you get out of body, you have to be very careful of what you're thinking too. So as you work up to getting out of body, you're lying there. If you start to overthink, my way of dealing with it, and it's helpful, is just to acknowledge what I'm starting to think about, and just go, well, okay, that's valid. I'll do that later. I'll do that at 3 o'clock today. I'm gonna think about that, and I'll take care of that then, and let it go for now, because it's just a letting go. And anything you can do to let your thoughts go, or your whatever if you're obsessing on something or a situation or anything, if you can just give you a lot of time that you can think about it later, because what you're doing is just trying to. That's why I think the hypnosis tapes help sometimes, because it guides your thoughts, so you're not you don't have this you can go over here. So that's helpful in the beginning too, to have some a little hypnosis, even just a relaxation tape is good. But you just kind of have to let that stuff go. It's a little bit of a barrier, but it's not going to stop you in the long run. It's not going to stop you from getting out. It may just take you a little longer.
Thanks, Susan. You know what, guys? What do you think of this? I'm going to turn this session that we're doing tonight into storytelling and not bring up the book, because the time is just flying by. And if we can start getting into the book tonight, it's going to be squished. So, and we've got a lot of people that are curious tonight and stuff like that. So I'm going to move this into a storytelling night tonight, where we just go back and forth on questions on out of body. And then I'm going to push this chapter for a couple more days. I'll relist it again. Does that sound cool for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move with the hands here. Julie?
That's a great idea.
Thanks.
It's nice to be flexible and let it flow. Sometimes you got to just go with the flow. And Susan, oh my gosh, 100%. I relate with, for whatever reason, and not everybody's the same, but yes, I have to have had plenty of sleep, number one. Number two, I have to feel like everything's taken care of and nobody needs me. All the dogs, the cat, my kids, everything's done. you know, close the door, lock the door, put the fan on, be just not too warm, not too cold. I mean, you know, again, I'm new to this. So, but for me to have all that perfected is helpful. That's my personality. Seems to really help. And Brianna, I guess I would say, oh, by the way, Brianna, I sent you a text in the chat. It's a link to a channel that you might be beneficial, because yeah, for sure, there are ways that people who are, I guess, experts, if you will, or they have a lot of experience at projecting, they have gone to the astral realm and interviewed people, gotten their name, you know, date of birth, where you from, people that are, you know, have passed on and they're hanging out and whatever in this particular astral realm, afterlife realm. And then the projector comes back to his body and can verify that, okay, I actually met this person. I actually talked to somebody who had passed on. So there are ways people are doing. I mean, it's rare, and my hope and my belief is that it's going to only increase over time. We will see this more and more in, you know, decade or so from now. This is going to be the norm. But the channel I shared with you, you can, it's one traveler that does exactly this. So, but they're out there. So it's real realms where you can meet like real people who have passed on, and in cases, some people who they were apparently. I haven't done this journalistic stuff yet. I would have loved to in the future, but people who were born there on this other realm, and they're living their life out there, and there's ways to verify. And then other out-of-body experiences where you know, you don't go to the astral realm, you're just on this physical realm, or copy, or double, if you will, and you see your friend, whatever, in the next room over, and he's or she's wearing, you know, pink pajamas or something, and then the next morning, you know, you're like, oh, whatever, or in another house or something. What did you wear to bed? Oh, I wore pink pajamas. And then there's ways to verify it. So I mean, it's pretty cool. Oh, I can't hear you, but I know you said something. What's that?
I said it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty freaking amazing. Anyway, I just wanted to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Kat?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on people that were having trouble being distracted by different things, losing their focus. And I had a question. And one of the techniques that I use to switch from one part of the brain to another is for people that maybe, for example, are having an anxiety attack, you get them to count or to identify all the things that are blue that they can think of, and it switches the brain into another hemisphere, I think. And I didn't know if that would be something that would be helpful for the distractions that happen when you're trying to get out of body. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Yeah, good idea, Kat.
All right, so let's move back into kind of like a question and answers and helping each other out.
I have a question. This is Christy.
Yeah, Christy.
It just came to my mind that, of course, the people that have been able to project and encounter their loved ones, I just wonder if, as we are having an astral projection experience, if we're meeting in this realm with them and they're also astral projecting to meet us halfway, or are we actually, you know, visiting the astral realm where they actually reside? I just wonder if they're also astral projecting from wherever they're in, or if that's where they actually reside or live.
Susan?
When I'm visiting with them, I'm there. They don't have to do anything to come to me. They can come to you, and they do. When people have visitations from their loved ones in spirit, they do have to go through a little procedure to be visible here, or to manifest here, to touch or whatever. They have to lower their vibration a little bit to do that. But when you go out of body and you with the intent of going to them, they don't have to do anything. You go right to them. And it's a little bit, time is not correct. I wanted to say it may take a little bit more time. That's not correct, because it doesn't take any time at all. But sometimes it feels like it takes a little more time. It feels like there's more of a distance that you cover. But generally speaking, you go to them, and once you get out and you learn to do that, you go to where they are, and they don't have to do a thing. You can go, and they could be on different. I mean, you could have different members of your family on slightly different levels. You can experience them all at once. You can have to go different places to talk to different people. It's just, but they don't have to do a thing. When you go out, you go to them.
So they're not astral projecting in any way to try to come meet you.
They don't have to do that. No. If they want to come here back into the physical realm and make themselves known to you, they do have to lower their vibration. It's sort of like astrally, when we go out of body, if you're say you go a long way out of body and you're not quite substantial, whoever you're trying to talk to, not necessarily in spirit, but say you've gone to another dimension, or you've gone to a realm that's much higher, and your body, your astral body seems to be not substantial enough to have a conversation, or to telepathically communicate, or to really interact with them. What you do then is you pull energy from your physical body into your astral body through your cord. And you can hold the cord and you can feel it passing through. But what it does is it brings a little bit more substance into your astral body, makes you a little bit more substantial where you are, and you can interact with people in some places that you might not have been able to otherwise. So you have to do that. That's similar to what they have to do to come here, because they're vibrating at a much higher rate than we are as spirit. And without the physical body, your vibration is much higher. So to make yourself get attention here, to move something, to telepathically communicate, or whatever, I think that for them to come here, they have to learn how to lower their vibration just enough that they can do things. And I'm always surprised at what they learn to do, how they learn to do it, because like my father appeared to me within 6 months of his death, full figure, standing right here about 3 feet from where I'm sitting, in my living room, solid, just completely manifested himself. He never spoke to me on that day. He did not speak. He was laughing. He had a big grin on his face, and he was absolutely solid. And I was so surprised to see him. And he was there for just a few seconds, and then it's gone. But somebody taught him how to do that, how to lower that vibration enough to be seen here, in this here and now. Now, if I was out of body, he wouldn't have had to do that, because I could have gone to him.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have, but if they come here, like when they talk about people see spirits and see their loved ones here, they do have to lower their vibration some, and someone tells them how to do that. I've tried to tell people before they die how to do it, but they get much better instruction once they're there, and they can do it. And then some are really good at it. Some I don't know what the mechanism is there, that why some people communicate and some don't, but it just seems to be the way it is. But yeah, for you to go, if you go out and you can get to them, you can hold them in your mind, hold that, because that's your coordinates, whoever they are, everything that you know about them, everything, if you can hold that, you will go to them wherever they are in spirit. You go to them. They don't have to lower themselves to come to you when you're out of body.
And just a little Robert Monroe experience on that. He'll say that when you die, depends what frame of mind you're in when you die, and what ring what energy ring you're going to be set at. And you can actually sometimes go visit somebody when they died, but they won't recognize you depending on their frame of mind and what they're in when they're dead. It depends what ring that they're in and the different mind frames. So that's how Robert Monroe would talk about that part. Julie?
I'm so focused on the conversation, sometimes I forget what I'm going to say, but I was, from my understanding, and I'm open to correction and refinement in my understanding, like I said, because I'm new and amateur. From what I understand, when we pass over, we are in our astral body. We pass over and we're on the astral realm, most likely the majority in an astral body. So if we can project, if we're alive and we can project onto the astral realm to see our loved one, we're on the kind of the same frequency, both two astral bodies kind of interacting and visiting. And that totally made sense to me. That's what I understand too, Susan, that if you are already passed over, no cord, no silver cord, you're disconnected from your physical body's dead and you're there, you do have to sort of learn how to lower your vibration to come and visit. But I don't know, but it seems like it doesn't seem to take that much education or learning to be able to do that they can come and visit. But that but I thought it was interesting. This is I'm on a learning journey here, but I thought it was interesting to learn that when we pass over, yeah, we probably are going to be in that sort of, the majority of us in that middle astral realm where we're kind of have fairly physical bodies like we do now, with added benefits like a physical body plus or super body or whatever, because you can do other things on that realm. But yes, I've also heard that depending on your mental state, even when you project, not just when you die, but when you project, your mental state does have a great influence on what you will experience as a projection or when you pass over. So, if very negative mental states will when they pass over will end up on a very low, dark astral realm. Looks like kind of like the earth, but it's just very dark and dreary and not very nice. And then as consciousness can raise, and positive energy, if you will, can raise. This is just based on what I've researched and read, that you will send your astral body will kind of sort of raise up into another astral realm until you can go to the middle astral realms that are much more pleasant, and apparently where the majority of people go when we pass over. And then there's continuing realms after that. So open for correction and refinement from old timers.
Yeah, there's Christy, there's different terminology for different things. Like Julie might say realm, I'll say rings, because that's what Robert Monroe calls them, different rings, realms, whatever you want to say. And you have people that are kind of like helpers too here. And I'm going to say Susan, like she's a helper, a human helper that helps people get to, let's say, different rings, because when they die, they're in different states of mind, to help them get them out of that and possibly send them to a more outer ring or whatever ring they need to be in to progress into a better part of their being. So somebody like Susan would be good to take over from there. Susan.
Well, like I said, in my 30s, I think it was in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, that I started working with other people out of body, because I was given about a 10-year window to have fun and do all kinds of things out of body, explore, do all kinds of just fun things, and go out with friends and go out pull people out of body, just all kinds of things I was allowed to I just did. I had fun. I never had bad problems. I never encountered anything that I couldn't handle. I never felt afraid. It's just a strange, maybe if I'd read more, I might have felt afraid. I don't know. But when I started working with people who had been injured or who were dying or just different crises, whatever it was, a lot of soldiers, a lot of active duty soldiers that I worked with who had passed away or committed suicide or whatever, I began working with them in my 30s, early 30s. And I was taught out, there was always someone with me, and it wasn't always the same being, always someone who accompanied me and were teaching me something about how to work with these people. And they would take me to accident scenes. They would take me to an accident that was about to happen or whatever, and help me understand what it was that I was supposed to do, because I had volunteered for this a long time ago. I'd volunteered because I thought, well, you know, if I can do this, there has to be something good that I can do with it. So, and I wasn't sure what that was. So I just asked, you know, use me, whatever, whatever ability that I have, whatever I'm suited for. And so that's what they did, was bring me to all of these accident scenes. And the people that, there were times, multiple times, probably at least 10 times or more, 10 or 15 times that people would actually, they would be in the process of dying and would be in such a state of confusion or fear as to what came next. I would accompany them. I would go with them to where they were going, as far as I could go. And there's a point beyond which you can't go, or I can't go. I'm sure that that's not a fixed point. I'm sure that there are exceptions to it, but I was allowed, you know, I could see a lot of things that they went to and went through, different people. And that, like I said, this was soldiers, car accident victims, boating victims, airplane crashes, earthquakes, it just floods, all kinds of things. And they would, some of them did need they seemed to need someone to accompany them so far. And I always knew the point at which I would have to go back, unless I tried to go further and someone would tell me I had to go back. But they all went to different places. You're right. They all went to, and none of it was there was no bad place. I never saw anything bad. You know, there was no hell that anybody ever went to. They just went to where they were to be received. And if they had been sick for a very long time, emotionally ill for a very long time or whatever, and they passed in that state, there was a healing thing. I knew that they would go through a process, a healing, a regeneration or something where they were going. And the first thing that I noticed multiple times was there would be people waiting, and we would join them in this wherever we were, and they would wait their turns, and they would be put into I call it a cubicle, but they looked like green marble. It was really beautiful. They were just a little small. It was a small room, and there was nothing in the room, but there were rows of those that I saw, and of this just beautiful green marble. And you would walk through, and the door would close. And this one time, I was actually allowed to go in the room into one of these booths, and nothing happened to me in the booth. I went in there. I just, I saw an open door. I went in. It's like, okay, I'm going to experience this. And I stood there, and I anticipated light. I anticipated being just bombarded by energy, and nothing happened because I wasn't supposed to be in there. And it wasn't my time for that anyway. But the other people did in their booths. They were bombarded by light. They were bombarded by energy that would just refresh them, so that instantly, just not a complete healing or anything, but it would refresh them enough that they were like, okay, I can do this now. I can go on. And that was as far as I got to go to see that. But I would see those things. And I was never, I was allowed to go in the booth. They didn't stop me from going in this little cubicle and standing there. And I was just I really, there were times I really wanted to stay, be allowed to just stay. You know, I'm here, let me stay. But you don't. When it's your time, it's your time. But there are different places. It depends on what they're ready for when they go out and what shape they're in when they leave their body, because um, just trauma to the body is another thing. You know, that's I've been saying that for years. That's the phenomenon of ghosts on battlefields and ghosts on aircraft carriers and things like that, where there's been this huge disaster or a great battle or whatever. They die. You know, these people are walking along fighting. They die, and they just don't even realize that they've died. They died. You know, they don't even realize it. And so the ghost phenomenon wasn't so much a matter of having to go and exercise a place to get rid of this bad energy or whatever. It was really just having to go to these places and convince these people that their bodies had died. And, you know, it was never sad to me. I never felt sorry for any of them, because once their bodies died, time stopped. There was no passage of time. They weren't aware that they'd been there for 100 years or 150 years. You know, they're just still fighting. They're still doing their thing. It's all happening in this moment, this now that they're stuck in. But once you convince them, you know, you tell them that, they're pretty willing to go to wherever it is that they need to go. And if you're fortunate enough, you're allowed to escort them sometimes. And, you know, it's a strange thing. But that's what I've done since my about 37 years now. I've done that.
Thanks, Susan. And to bring up Robert Monroe too, he talks about he was never good at it in his book. He was never good at helping people cross over or helping people who are stuck to get unstuck. So some people just have the certain energy for it. He didn't have it. And also there's a dedicated ring that surrounds the earth that these people in this ring are basically last timers, and they help people. They help humans and stuff in different rings and even in the physical too. Nikki?
I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah, I have a few questions, but they're kind of, you know, they're OBE related, but not really related to death. So I don't know if the other two that popped up should go first. If you want to back to me, that's okay.
Let's see, Julie, did you want to respond to the death?
Actually, I had just noticed some questions in the chat that maybe they don't know how to raise their hand. I just wanted to make sure they don't get looked over. One was Greta, who said, I have a question. Every time when I wake up, I feel like I was traveling a lot and had a lot of new experiences, but why I'm not able to remember when I'm awake. So that's a good question. And then and there is techniques to remember when you're awake. And then Marty wanted to know, I think she's having technical difficulties. Does anyone know if a person will have trouble connecting with their deceased loved one after we pass over ourselves? And she said she's having audio difficulty, so she can't really chat. Okay. But that's a good question too. And I don't have a lot of, I think I'll refrain from giving too much advice on that if anyone wants to give advice for either of those questions.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks, Julie, for bringing that to my attention. Does anybody want to respond to the death, after death, before we move on?
I will. I was reading a book, and it says that sometimes people will forget about people if they're not too emotionally tied to them. And I can't remember his name, but I'm reading his book right now. It's Journeys Out of Body. He's in that group that we're in. But like some people, I guess they will forget and not, you know what I mean, keep ties to this physical realm. But I think that some people like stay on the next plane, if you will, and they kind of create their own little world. So I don't know if it just depends on how long it is, because there's no actual time, but in my mind, I think that's definitely where we go whenever we astral project, is where people go after they pass away. So I think the chances are kind of like 50-50 on that, on whether you will meet up with people if they're still, if they haven't been reincarnated or they haven't came back to Earth. But that's just my views on it, on what I've read, because I've read quite a few books. So that's the best answer I have for that.
All right. Thank you. And let me just check in, Christy.
Yeah, I had another thought or question, but since some mediums, you know, sometimes when they bring messages from our loved ones, and these messages can relate about things that they've seen that we've been doing after they passed. I just, it just makes me wonder, you know, and in the cases where, you know, some people have had apparitions like Susan, uh, I just wonder if these rings or planes are kind of like in the same place that we're in right now, but just at a different frequency or at a different level. And that's why we're able to tap into each other. And, you know, hearing about, you know, all these astral cities that they talk about, that is kind of a carbon copy of ours here. So it just makes me wonder if these other rings are happening in the same place. It's just a different frequency, and we're kind of carbon copies with some differences, but some carbon copies of what we're experiencing, you know, right now in this physical realm for us. Does anybody know if like those other dimensions or planes or rings are, you know, somewhere else out there, or could they be just vibrating in the same place? Because just makes me wonder, when mediums come and give us messages of things that are actually occurring on in our lives after they passed, how are they able to see that?
Okay. I see Julie and Susan. I see. Julie, did you want to respond to that?
I felt for Greta that no one responded to her every time she wakes up and she feels like she's traveling and she can't, why can't she remember when she's awake? That's not, I just want to share that that's not uncommon to think you're traveling and you've had experiences and then you can't remember when you're awake, because I feel like we talked about this earlier. Maybe you weren't on. I don't know. I'm old. Everything runs together. But when you know, our physical brain is not the same thing as when we go out and we're experiencing with our astral quote unquote brain. It's two different downloads. So when you're out with your astral brain and you're having experiences, and then you come back to your body, there has to be, it's difficult. It can be difficult. It's not an automatic download straight from what you experience down into your physical brain, and now you understand everything. Our brains, even sometimes, because it's so different and we don't have an association to what we've experienced in our astral body, sometimes our brain will try to put in information to make sense of what we've gone through in the astral realm. So like if we're out in the astral realm, for example, and we might meet some, you know, older gentleman, and it's a real experience. We're meeting some older gentleman and he tells us about his garden and his life. And then we come back to, and we don't know how to make sense of it. When we get back to our body, our brain might even think that, oh, I just saw my grandpa who passed away. It can be very, from what I understand, again, this is all from what I've researched and not from my own personal experiences, but from other people's experiences, but that it is very, it's not that easy. You have to be a very, can take a decade or so of being a very skilled astral projector before you can just easily take your astral projection memories and go back into your body and sync them up to your physical brain and make sense of it all. So please don't feel badly that you're having a hard time remembering your astral projections. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to say to Greta, because I felt bad no one responded to her. And then Marty, I don't know if you, well, someone mentioned that. I don't think, Marty, based on what I know of you and your experience with your husband, there's no way you will not connect with him after you pass over. No way. I just feel like there's, from, again, this is my research, from if we have a great deal of intention and desire and love to connect with somebody after we pass on, to connect with somebody who passed on before us, we will. We'll connect with that person. There's nothing stopping that. That's my belief in my heart. But you know, if you know me, then I'm always hopeful, and that's how I roll.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I'm going to keep it to the Greta's question here. So, Brett, I have you up first. Would you like to respond to Greta's question?
I would, but Susan did have her hand up first. So
Oh, I thought you had yours up first.
I just can't, you were using a different, in the reactions, you were doing wave instead of raise hand. And the raise hand stays up and wave only stays up for a little bit and then goes away.
Okay.
So you technically did have yours up first if you want to go.
You were waving at us, Susan.
There we go. Oh, hi, everybody. Okay. So, hi. So who am I answering? What
Greta's question that she has in the chat.
Yeah, that about not remembering when you come back in. I agree with Julie about that, because the upload from your astral to your physical body, it's not always, you don't always remember that. You know, it depends on how you come back into your body. If you come back into your body and your body's sleeping, and you sleep the rest of the night, and you may not remember it the next day. So you may not, and it may pop into your mind at 5 o'clock the next day, oh, I was out of body. What did I do? And then you sit down and try to remember. You don't always remember it. So there's the disconnect. Sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect there if you come back into a sleeping body, and the upload, you know, you just forget it when you come out of it and you wake up in the morning. I've always, like, if I go out of body in the daytime and I come back in conscious, or even if I'm sleeping and I come back in, I'm conscious, I usually stay awake. I don't, it wakes me up and I upload it then. Did somebody say something? So yeah, that's just, it's something that comes with practice. You know, it's something that comes with, it's sort of the opposite of, you come back in, like going out. Somebody had asked earlier about going out and how do you stop your racing thoughts and stuff when you're trying to get out? A lot of times when I was very, very young and I first started having sleep paralysis and different things that were so strange to me, and I had no one to ask about it, absolutely no one. I finally let that go and let it happen to see if it was going to kill me, because I really thought I was going to die. But you know, I called it separation. It's like you have the separation anxiety when you're first learning to do this, and you get to this point where you're almost out and you get anxious. It's like a precipice anxiety, you know. It's like if you're going to base jump or something like that, you just have this last minute anxiety. It's like, what if I don't make it back? What if this happens? What if that happens? That's just, it's sort of the opposite of that. You know, one way you're anxious about getting out, another time you come in and everything just spreads out and you don't remember it. You just don't remember it immediately, you know. And if you sit down and you think about it for a while, sit down with a tablet and just be very quiet and meditative and see what pops up. A lot of it may come back to you that way, you know, so that you have these, you can start uploading a little bit better.
Thanks, Susan. Brett?
All right. So for this, I've had a little bit of experience with this. To me, the mechanics feels the same as dream recall for my projection recall. Whatever mechanic it's using, it seems similar to me. So the techniques that I use to strengthen dream recall apply towards my projections. Like, as soon as you wake up, especially when you project, but from a dream, as soon as you can, record it down in detail as much as possible, all the senses engaged, everything. colors, smells, what you did, what you saw. And I like to do it by hand because the more work that I put into it, the more it strengthens it, the memory in my mind. And two, when I wake up, I generally remember the last thing that happened. And if I want to recall the previous content, I start to work backwards. And for some reason, as I start to remember backwards, things start popping in ahead of it. And so I can kind of build the experience backwards. That being said, I did have a projection where it was actively redacted as soon as I woke up. And that was weird because the time allotment was there with no content. So it must have been something that I didn't necessarily need to know right now. But I mean, that may happen to you as well. Just make sure to record as much as possible as soon as you wake up. Either have a recorder on your nightstand or something like that you can just speak into as soon as you wake up. And that'll help over time.
Could you elaborate on actively redacted?
Like I had an experience where I had a goal and I went out and I accomplished that goal, but it's almost as if I remember halfway through. It was like starting a story in the middle. And I was in a location and I went through a door to get to where I wanted to for my goal. But before that, I remember a chunk of time. It was just like, it's like the movie Contact. There was time there that was recorded with nothing. I just remember in a lapse of time, but no content in it. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the closest thing it comes to is like the movie Contact. That only happened once out of the experiences. So I just took it as, hey, I wasn't supposed to take that and apply that in my everyday life. It wasn't important at the time. Like I accomplished my goal, so that's all I really needed to do at that moment. But yeah, thankfully that doesn't happen like every time.
Thanks, Brett, and welcome. I'm going to respond. Let's see. Well, we kind of responded to Marty a little earlier about the trouble with connecting with deceased loved ones after we pass over ourselves. So, Marty, as you know, you'll get experiences from different people studying different out-of-bodyers and stuff like that. But as Robert Monroe says, like I said earlier with him, is there can be trouble. And those troubles can also disappear after a while, or there could be no trouble. And I would like to move it on to, since we're getting close to 8:30 already, amazing. Nikki, I wanted to save some time. Nikki, would you still like to talk about an out-of-body experience recently?
Yeah, sure. So the first one that I had that I shared with you guys was, really intense. It was over 2 hours long. I was perfectly conscious and perfect, vision and everything. And the ones that I've had since then, I'm having trouble with my eyes. So like in the last few, it's almost like I'm blinking constantly. So there's a strobing effect and I can only see out of my left eye. I don't know what that is. And I've tried a few things like affirmations, like I say, I can see clearly now, or vision now, and it will go away or clear up for a second and then kind of go back, and I'm fighting with it. So that's one of the things. But the other thing I really wanted to share was, I don't know if I made this up. I didn't read it anywhere, so I don't know if someone else has done it, but I was lying in bed and I kept having sleep paralysis, and I've noticed that that's my magic place. Like now that I've learned how to do it, I go out all the time from there. So the first time I was rocking side to side to get out, and it took like considerable effort. My body felt so heavy, my head was so heavy, and I was just really straining to get out. And so these last few times I was trying all these different ways, and then finally I just said, A rope would be nice. So I noticed that if I this has become my technique to get out, right? So sleep paralysis, I'll be laying there thinking I'm in sleep paralysis. So my test is to kind of gaze off to the side, don't look directly at my arms, and then try to lift one up in the air and then look back at it. And if my arm hasn't moved, then I know I'm in the golden spot and I'm good to go. So I kind of took that a step further and manifested a rope hanging from the ceiling. And then again, gazed off to the side without looking at my hands, but used my astral hands to feel the texture of the rope, and just really, I could even feel it splintering my fingers, and I just really spent time with like feeling it without looking at it. And then I started to climb like this, and when I got about halfway up, I just used it and I pulled my legs up, and it was the easiest way I'd gotten out. And I've done that way ever since. But I've started to notice that I have to like stabilize myself now, almost like I have to in a lucid dream, because if I get too excited, I wake up. Well, if I get too excited in OBE, I end up right back in my body. And I had that happen one morning. I'm a persistent little bugger though, because I got out 6 times that morning. Every time I'd go back in my body, I'd say, well, I'm just gonna try again then. So I just kept doing it. But eventually, after like the 3rd or 4th time, I was like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. So I pulled myself up, and then I picked something in the distance to look at to try to like stabilize myself. And then I jumped on my bed for a while, played with the cat. She could see me doing it. I have the coolest cat. I don't know if everyone's cats see us astrally, but I think my cat's pretty cool. And the other thing, well, there's a couple other things. So eventually I stabilized, I got out, I went into the kitchen, and it was like I time traveled again, because everything was 1970s. There was like, the refrigerator was that fake wood, and there were pictures everywhere on the walls that were drawn by kids. So it gave me this idea where I just said, I'm going to close my eyes, and when I open them, something very important, like an important lesson from my childhood, will be shown to me. So I closed my eyes, I opened them, and the pictures that were hanging all changed. And I could see a town and like stick figures. I saw a really strange stick figure with like a squiggle spiral body. I don't know what that means. And then I saw 2 frogs, which is weird because in my first OBE, I saw that frog that I healed and said, you're finally free, and opened its cage. So then again, in this one, I see 2 frogs with droopy eyes, and I was having that issue with my eyes, and it scared the shit out of me for some reason, and I just wouldn't even look at it. But there seems to be it feels shamanic in a way, like these frogs are trying to tell me something, and I'm not sure what that is yet. And then the last thing I wanted to share was, so that same morning where I had, multiple experiences back to back, the last one it was different. I ended up in a school, and I recognized it immediately because it's a school I've been to many times before. I don't know if I was traveling before. Like I thought they were dreams. I think now that I might have been traveling there. So it's a school for magic, basically, and astral travel and things like that. And I recognized people, and we were all, you know, coming out of our bodies and teaching each other things. And I got bold and I snuck out. So I flew outside by myself. It was dark out, and I was just exploring. I went into this sketchy looking shed, and I don't know what it is with me, because my first OBE, I also went around and was like banishing things. So I did that again. I went into a shed and I was all fancy with myself, like, if anything evil is in here, I command you to. And then something started moving, and I got really bad vibes, and I changed my mind and I said, never mind, carry on. And I tried to run away, and the thing chased me, and it had like an alligator head, just really creepy being. An actual alligator came out and fought it for me so I could get away. And then the headmaster of the school came out and, like, you know, put a spell around the school to like keep everything out, and then scolded me and said, why would you do that? You're not strong enough yet. We're here to teach you, and you keep doing this. This is not a game. You could get hurt. And it seems to be like that message keeps coming up to me that I don't know. It's not that like OBEs are scary, but like that I need to kind of treat it with more respect than I am. That I get too excited and it's really fun. And these teachers are there and kind of telling me like, time to get serious. You know, like there are things out here that you need to not go poking. So yeah, I would really like to know what you guys think about all of that, but especially what I can do to see better when that happens.
Yeah, Nikki, Monroe went through a lot of that in the beginning too, in his books. You hear him mention like it's very exciting and this and that, and then it starts to shift. The excitement starts to shift into learning more, and then it starts to shift into where there's periods where he doesn't even want to leave his body for a long time because there's so much information. He's got to process it all before he goes out again for months at time where he's not doing anything. So congratulations on so many and on your journey. That's so exciting. Wow. I'm just going to mention here real quick and then we'll respond to Nikki. It's 8:30, so I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing. And I'm going to move off the next chapter 16 and epilogue to probably Saturday or Sunday. I got to see. And then I'll push that off to that. And then Monday's going to be out-of-body experiences, questions and answers. Going to be from the book Far Journeys. So he has a part in Far Journeys with all these questions and answers. And I have a feeling this is going to bring up a lot of discussion between us. A lot of answers, a lot of questions should be answered, hopefully, by this. So it should be exciting. And that's going to be definitely on Monday, the questions and answers. So, and yeah, and that's it. So I'll move back in. Would anybody like to respond to Nikki? And we'll go for a little bit longer.
I would.
Go. Hey, Steph, take it away.
So I see a correlation between those two experiences. Whenever I have a guide or a helper, everything is very grounded and real and tactile and no trouble. I don't have to think about my vision. I don't feel like I'm getting fuzzy. But when I do not have a guide, there's a little odd, like it's hard to even just move sometimes. It's hard to have any vision at all. But I guess it's like there's a lot to think about and we're just not used to it. And I think they do a lot of that for us, or by just sinking into their way of being or thinking, they do it for us. And so that might explain why there's such a difference there. So yeah, sounds like appealing to those guides for help would be the quick fix. But if not, then yeah, you have to I remember reading a tutorial about how to clear up your eyesight. Like feel your, like use your astral hand to feel your astral eyelid. Like you actually have eyelids apparently. Sometimes they happen to be open for us and that's convenient, and sometimes they're like sealed closed practically. And it can be some work, and it's not quite one-to-one with the physical world. So yeah, just play around with that, but I think asking for help is the quick fix.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Brett?
I was just going to ask Nikki if those sight issues persisted the farther away from your starting point, like the farther away from your body you got.
See, I hadn't thought about that. They did seem to actually clear up. Like by the time I had gotten to that school, I didn't have problems seeing at all. But I was also close proximity to the teacher. So along the lines of what Steph was saying, you know, she might have been kind of doing some of the lifting for me. But yeah, when I was in my bedroom this time, I really struggled to see. When I went out into the kitchen, I was struggling to see, but not quite as bad. And then when I left my house completely, I could see.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion when those kind of strange things happen, because there's a lot of people that report different types of issues when in the room with their body. Like the closer they are to their body, it just wants to suck them back in. And so there's different effects that can happen besides like sight issues and just fuzzy and feeling heavy and stuff. So try to just, I mean, a lot of authors suggest too to just get the heck away from your body, and that'll clear up a lot of the issues and ground you as you're doing that as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Thank you. I had, you know, the silliest things. I have really bad vision, like in my physical body. And there was a moment where I was like, oh, it must be because my first OBE, I fell asleep with my glasses on. And this time I didn't. So that's why I can't see. And then I'm like, stop for a minute. I'm like, your astral body does not need glasses. That is not the answer.
That's me. That might be psychological though. So it might be true, but only because of psychology. Another thing to consider, I just remembered it's either Bielman or Peterson who was saying, get away from your body by at least 15 feet, first thing. It is common to have no vision right next to the body. It's also common to snap back in. And so something about 15-foot radius, whatever that means to your house. Wow. So just go through the wall, whatever it takes, go through the darkness, just feel around whatever you need to do. But don't worry about not being able to see until you get at least 15, 20 feet away.
I love that this is a thing, you know? So you guys actually have answers and other people have experienced this. Great.
Susan?
Vision-wise, I've never had a problem with it. I can be inches from my body. I can be across the universe. I've never had problem. There was something that I practiced early on was engaging vision, disengaging vision. I love the fact that vision is 360 degrees. When you're out of body, you can see. You can be facing this way and see everything that's going on behind you, to the side of you, everywhere. Everything is visual. But I was going to suggest there's something that I did, started in my 20s, and both my kids have done this also. And they mentioned it to me, but it just happened to them spontaneously like it did to me. But I would go to bed at night, sometimes not going out of body or anything, just lie there, couldn't go to sleep, lie there with my eyes closed and get very meditative. And all of a sudden the whole room lights up, and I see it green. It's shown in green light, but I could go and pick things off the floor or whatever that in the pitch dark, because I'm seeing this. But I'm not seeing it with my eyes. I'm seeing it with my third eye, with the pineal gland. The third eye is just as capable of vision as your physical eyes. So if you tell yourself, remind yourself that also, that you're not relying on your physical eyes out of body. This is something that's related to your astral body. And you also have this ability to see without your eyes too. So you might practice that lying in bed or in meditation. Just practice with your eyes closed. and just put your attention. You can roll your eyes up to this area because it helps stimulate the pineal gland. And I used to do that a lot. I think maybe that's what opened this up so well. But it happened to both my kids also, and I never told them anything about it. They just came by it naturally. But you can see, so don't worry about it being an eyesight problem or anything out of body. It has nothing to do with your physical eyes. And you may be seeing with your pineal gland. You may be seeing with your astral visual apparatus, whatever. So yeah, I would just relax into it, and I would practice that. I would practice with your eyes closed, just imagining your forehead just opening up, and it's just, being able to see without it. That could help. Oh, there was something else I was going to. Oh, I was going to tell, was it Greta who had asked about also talking about the not being able to remember things that you come back with a lucid dream. Sometimes you can't remember that, or sometimes you don't remember your astral projection. If you go out of body, I do know this isn't going to be for everybody. I mean, this won't apply to everyone, but if you do go out of body and you're very, very tired physically, you're really, really tired, and you go out of body anyway, a lot of times you're not going to remember any of that. You just don't. A lot of people, I mean, I've tried to pull people out of body before that were physically exhausted, and I can get them out. I could get them out and take them, miles away from their body. But if I let them go, they just float right back into it and have no memory. They would have no memory of having been out at all because they were just too tired to do it. So if your body's really, really tired, I wouldn't be upset that you don't remember. You may have a feeling that you've done something, but if you don't remember, I wouldn't worry too much about it, because if your body's tired or if you've been sick or whatever, and you may not upload everything and you may not remember all of it. It's just because you're exhausted, can be a hindrance sometimes to that. So I won't worry about that at all.
I was going to add too, Nikki, that I remember when I lost vision a lot of times leaving the body, that it's scary in the beginning, but once you start finding the technique to get it back, then you get that confidence. So when you do lose it in the beginning, I always remember feeling this confidence, like, oh, I know I'm going to get it eventually, so I don't panic anymore.
Yeah. So when it happens, if it happens again, it sounds like I should try to be calm and try to feel things, like use my other senses and get away from my body. Is that a good plan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And I also recommend everybody again to see the movie Astral City. It's so good. And it's about, also meeting up with dead loved ones and stuff like that. It's a movie made in, it's, yeah, it's such a good movie. Astral City. It's Brazilian.
Yeah.
It's in Portuguese, but it has English subtitles.
I've read that guy's books. I liked them. Yeah.
Do you guys see there's a new show on Netflix about astral travel and lucid dreaming?
What's it called?
It's called Behind Her Eyes.
I know I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, the lead character lucid dreams and astral travels.
Cool.
But they kind of make it like,
We're watching that.
make it
My
seem.
husband and I are watching that.
I liked it. I just felt like it could have been a little better because they tried to make it seem like it's scary and it's, dangerous.
I'm not there yet, but yeah, we're like halfway through.
It's still pretty cool that they even made a show about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it a few days ago on the past meetups, and there's pretty much a consensus there is like it's a little too far.
Astral City, I looked that up too. That's old, right? And with subtitles?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't checked that out. So, I looked it up, but so you think that's worth watching?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out then.
Yeah, we used to do a movie night with it. We watched it a few times when we were in Austin with Jason and Stephanie. We had a lot of people come out and watch it, and such a find.
Really? Huh. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I think we can buy it for like, I don't know, like $5-10 or something.
Yeah, you can buy
Yeah.
it. I forgot. I think somebody was streaming it at once, but you have to look. They come and go.
Yeah.
If you have Gaia on your television, I'm sorry. If you have Gaia on your television, if you subscribe to that, Astral City is available through them. I think it's like $9 or $9.99 a month. They have a lot of programming on it. But otherwise, yeah, you should be able to get it. You might even get it on YouTube. I don't know. I'm gonna check it out. I haven't watched it. I've read the book. I haven't watched it.
Oh, Susan, yeah, you should definitely watch it. Yeah.
Okay, well, Friday night movie, I guess.
Yeah.
We're gonna. Well, it's not even 6 o'clock our time, so maybe we should watch that tonight.
I'm gonna have to scoot because it's getting late here.
Okay, yeah, I don't see anybody else's hands up here, so I'm gonna close the night out.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you.
See you guys next time.
I'm sorry tonight if I screwed up some stuff. There's a lot of people. There were 17 people on at one point, so I try to keep the best controls I could. So sorry if I missed your question or didn't get to you. All right, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good.
Saturday or Sunday. Thank you, everyone, for sharing and joining.